Hey everyone, just thought I'd come to you from the youth room, and I remember I got called on this. I had told y'all I had cleaned up a little bit and rearranged somewhat, not a whole lot, and then I forgot to show y'all. So we'll do that. I can't do it right now because the way I've got my phone all rigged up. It would take me forever to get it back. So I will try to do that this time. And that's the thing. Like this sucks. I know. Sitting here trying to make videos and stuff and not getting to hang out with y'all is not ideal. But like even this right now, like last week when I did this and I said, hey, we're gonna show it to you, you could have called me on it. You could have reminded me of it right then and there, but try to get to that. I'll try to remember that when we're done. And then you'll hear all the tape peeling off that I have this plastered up on the board, so you'll know why I didn't try to show you first. But anyway, all that to tell you, we're going to be in 2 Chronicles chapter 25. I hope y'all have had a good weekend. Hope you enjoyed your Mother's Day and it made your mama feel special and did some nice things for her. And she has done a lifetime of good things for you. So hopefully you got it right on Mother's Day, but even if not, you can still tell her every day how special she is, how cool she is. But anyway, we're going to be in 2 Chronicles chapter 25. I'm going to look at a relatively unknown character very briefly today, and just kind of show you, I guess, kind of give you a heads up where we're going with this. We have to be careful. You know, we have to be very careful. We have to be on guard as far as what we watch, what we hear, what we listen to, which of course would be the same thing as hearing. But got to just be careful of what we put in to our minds, what we surround ourselves with, who we surround ourselves with, and things like that. So just because Satan is a master tweaker, he kind of wants to slip things in. It's not always going to be something very blatant and obvious that, hey, this is bad, this is evil. Chances are somebody's not going to come up to you and say, hey, here's a knife, I want you to go stab somebody, or a gun, I want you to go shoot somebody, or hey, let's take these drugs together. It's not always going to be that upfront and in your face, depending on who you hang out with. I certainly hope that doesn't happen to you, but a lot of times it's much more easily kind of slid in and maybe not as noticeable, but we still kind of incorporate things into our mental files as far as things that images we see, lyrics that we might hear or listen to that might not be wholesome, or just things like that it's real easy to kind of let some things slide, and before you know it, it's become a part of you. It's become a part of the fabric of who you are. I think I shared with y'all, I remember growing up that I started cussing, and maybe that's something that you struggle with now yourself. But I remember it got really bad in high school, but I kind of contained it. And hey, I can do this around my school friends, or I can do this around my football team, or in the locker room, but not when I'm at home, not when I'm at church, certain things like that. And it's because I kind of let little things go constantly and consistently. And Satan likes to work in little subtle ways like that. And so we're going to look at the story of Amaziah, 2 Chronicles chapter 25. I'm just going to read two quick passages, verses 2 through 8, and then I'll show you one other one. But 2 Chronicles chapter 25, verses 2 through 8 says, he did this is talking about Amaziah. He was a king in Judah. And it says, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly. Remember that phrase. After the kingdom was firmly in his control, he executed the officials who had murdered his father, the king. Okay, sounds pretty... I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? Somebody who murdered your father. Verse 4, it says, yet he did not put their sons to death, but acted in accordance with what is written in the law, in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, fathers shall not be put to death for their children, nor children put to death for their fathers. Each is to die for his own sins. Amaziah called the people of Judah together and assigned them according to their families to commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds for all Judah and Benjamin. He then mustered those 20 years old or more and found that there were 300,000 men ready for military service, able to handle the spear and shield. He also hired 100,000 fighting men from Israel for 100 talents of silver. But a man of God came to him and said, O king, these troops from Israel must not march with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, not with any of the people of Ephraim. Even if you go and fight courageously in battle, God will overthrow you before the enemy, for God has the power to help you or to overthrow. Amaziah didn't start out too bad. If you heard what started here, it says, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. This is verse 2. But not wholeheartedly. And that plays into the rest of his story here. But he starts out, he exacts revenge on those who took care of, or who murdered his father. And you think, okay, well, that's, you'd be pulling for the good guy in a movie if he did that, if he hunted down people who hurt his family. And then on top of that, he kind of breaks up all of Judah's fighting men into garrisons and troops, and he kind of organizes being ready for battle, which again, that's good to be prepared. But then he hires all these outsiders, all these mercenaries, and it says a man of God, a prophet, came to him and said, don't take them into battle with you. God has already defeated this enemy before you. And so again, Amaziah does something right. He listens and he sends all those guys home. But he had already made a poor choice by hiring these people. And that'll come into play also later. So what happens, he's just sent these guys home. And if you'll turn to verse 14 through 16, we'll finish up with those. It says, when Amaziah returned from slaughtering the Edomites, so he goes into battle, sends the guys home, the mercenaries that he had hired, sends them home, goes into battle because the prophet had told him, God has already won this victory for you. So he goes into battle. It says, when Amaziah, verse 14, when Amaziah returned from slaughtering the Edomites, he brought back the gods of the people of Seir. Not a good thing. All right. So right here, he goes into battle with some foreign people who are not of his tribe, not of his nation, and he brings back their false gods, their foreign gods, the gods of the losers. All right, so keep that in mind, because remember what it says, he followed the ways of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly. So I want to challenge us that we have to do better. We have to do things wholeheartedly. It says he brought, again, verse 14, he brought back the gods of the people of Seir. He set them up as his own gods, bowed down to them, and burned sacrifices to them. The anger of the Lord burned against Amaziah, and he sent a prophet to him who said, why do you consult this people's gods, which could not save their own people from your hand? So they could not, their false gods that they served, their idols, that could not protect them from you, and you're gonna take these gods into your troop, into your home, into your nation as your own gods, the ones who could not protect your enemies from you. While this prophet was still speaking, this is verse 16, the king said to him, have we appointed you an advisor to the king? Stop. Why be struck down? So the prophet stopped, but said, I know that God has determined to destroy you because you have done this and have not listened to my counsel. If you go back to verse 2, remember I told you this is going to be kind of central to our story here. What did Amaziah do? He says he started out pretty good. All right. It says he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. If it stopped right there, that would be awesome. And if you and I simply tried to do what was right in the eyes of the Lord, awesome. Not meaning our life's always going to be perfect. Not going to mean our day is always going to be great and peachy and all kinds of fun. There's going to be difficulties. But if we try to do things the way that the Lord commands and that we know what the Lord expects of us, so much better than when we try to do things our own way. Because life is hard enough as it is. But when we do things the wrong way, it gets infinitely harder and exponentially harder, more difficult. But it says, Amaziah did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. And then what did I ask you to remember at the end of verse 2? But not wholeheartedly. And that's where we have to differ from Amaziah. It says he liked to tweak things, and he kind of allowed Satan in to tempt him to take in these false gods, to do things outside of what God's plan for him was. Remember, he hired those mercenaries, which God said, well, you don't need. I've already fought this battle for you. It's already in my hands. And Amaziah said, hey, I think God is cool. I think his way is awesome. But it'd be even more awesome if I do things this way. It gives me even extra confidence. And God says, whoa, don't need that stuff. And that's exactly the way Satan will lure us in temptation. He's not going to come at you and say, do this evil thing. This is wicked. This is totally off, from God. It's going to say, hey, here's the right way. Let's just vary just a little bit, because that'll be so much more fun, or that'll be so much more beneficial for you, because hey, you're the one that matters, right? And we know that's not the case. But Satan loves to tweak things. And what happened here, Amaziah, and I know we're gonna wrap up here real quick. Amaziah said he tried to do things the way of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly. That's where he tried to veer off and do just a little bit his own way, and it was all downhill from there. Because Satan's going to lure us with just some little things, like, oh, you can cuss in front of your football friends, but not in front of your mama. And man, I'll tell you, I slipped. I couldn't control it. And you'll find that you think you have control of things until you cuss in front of your mama and you get found out. Oh, you've been living a double life. That's not good. And that's what Amaziah did. He just tried to tweak it a little bit. Hey, I'm going to do God's way, but I'm going to bring in these false gods and just this little God. And then, well, hey, what's wrong with doing a little prayer to a false god? Hey, what's wrong with offering a burnt sacrifice to a false god? It's going to please the people, right? That's not what happened. It's all downhill as soon as he did that. But Satan's going to lure us with attractive things, like, hey, man, this movie, nobody else is awake right now. It's okay to watch this kind of stuff. I can get away with it. It's not hurting anybody. I can listen to this kind of music. I can treat people disrespectfully. I can, do things my way. And we start wondering, and we think we're just barely tweaking. But anything that's not in line with God's provision and God's plan for us is completely wrong. If it's 99.5% God's way, that 0.5% means it's all wrong. And we like to justify things, but that's just not the way. We like to say, hey, what's the harm in doing just a little bit this way? I know, God, this is what you ask of me, but today I'm going to do things my way. And that's where Amaziah went wrong. He tried to do things God's way, but not wholeheartedly. So I'm going to challenge us to try to do things wholeheartedly. Once we hear things, once we see things, once we experience things, it gets into our mental files, and it stays there. And is harmful. We like to say, what's the harm? But I can tell you from having conversations with people who are of different religions that it sounds so much like Christianity, but just one little thing, one little fact is different. Jesus isn't the Son of God, is what they'll tell you. You can read through their Bible, and it sounds just like the Christian Bible, except for that one little thing. But that one little thing, that tweaking, instead of saying Jesus is the Son of God, they'll say, Jesus is a God, meaning that there's multiple. And that's a big thing. When you start veering off and you get out here, you see, well, you can't see. You start right here, and it just, before you know it, you like my sound effects, I'm sure. But be careful, because Amaziah thought he was doing things that were going to work out great. And before you know it, it's not so great. And what happened is after that, he went into battle again. Just a quick breakdown the end of the story and into the chapter. And everybody deserted him. His army fled for their lives. And Amaziah ended up getting captured. And ultimately, towards a few years later, he was killed like a coward. He was running like a scared dog because he didn't do things God's way. And I don't want that to happen to us. Be careful what we take in. Be careful what we spend our time doing. Be careful who we spend our time with. Because just a little tweak that's not intended for us of God's way can be a very, very big divergent path. So let me, hang on, try not to listen to the tape peeling off here. I want to show you the youth room real quick. This is still your board. All right. You can just see my setup right there. Got my little music stand. But all I did so far was just kind of cleaned up. There's still some stuff over here to clean up. Still got the little, what do you call this, stage, but do need to get that out of here unless unless you want to use that and say that's our balcony, that's our raised platform, so there's our balcony. But anyway, I just kind of flipped the room. There's the chairs. Still got the recliner in the corner, and then chairs coming down here. Got that big roll around sound booth thing out of here because we weren't using it, and still got your couch. Got your Bibles. You need to stack them on a bookshelf maybe somewhere, or you can bring your own. Still got the beanbag. So just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Gives us more space. So you got room to put all kinds of more people now when we get back together, hopefully soon. And then just cleaned it up. So still got your prayer board too here. But anyway, love you guys. Like I said, just wanted a minute to encourage us tonight from the story of Amaziah. And hope y'all are having a great night. And we'll check in with you maybe Zoom tomorrow night. So love you guys. Hope y'all having a good week. Again, thank you, Michael. Had a good time working with you this morning at Mr. Crump's house. Let's do some more stuff like that, all of us. And Emma, I already gave you a shout out in the group text, but awesome work. And doing that much little notes to the residents. I know they absolutely loved it. So love you guys. Hope y'all having a good one.